There is no honor among gentlemen and gentlewomen in college football. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because, well, we don't love everything in college football right now. Well, because we love everything in college football. If you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this College Football Rebel Outpost channel with a donation to help us keep the lights on. Hit that $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody, and I mean everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. This is College Football Scatter Shot Saturday. Open line Scatter Shot Saturday. And we're going to be doing a lot of these during the off season. I do not have a structured monologue. I'm just going to, believe it or not, and I know this is almost impossible for you to believe, but I do structure my monologues, right? I do show images. Sometimes I go through articles. Sometimes I have a bunch of notes. I know what I'm going to say. That's not happening. I'm just gonna talk for a little bit on what is bothering me right now, bothering me about college football, and then I'm gonna open up the lines. Scatter Shot Saturday. We're also, before we get to your open lines, we're going to be talking a little bit about the large white egg looking object. The large white egg looking object that News Nation is going to be covering this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about that before we get to your phone lines. Charlie Atwood, thanks for coming on in. Kay Struthers, Biggers, Bowl, Mr. Mountaineer, the Longhorn, Lear the Jim, the LSU Tiger, Ryan Brooks, AMAC, the Buckeye, Caleb Ramirez, Bill G, Humble Bumble Duck, Daniel Gygax, the Mountaineer. I'm going to have to make an apology starting off to the college football mafia family. I was a little bit agitated last night. Expedition Greg is in the house. Daniel Gorby is here. Ray, go Bucks. Deadeye is in the house. Randy Taylor, Jimmy Austin, thanks for coming on in. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I might not have conducted myself in the way that I would have liked to conducted myself on the College Football Mafia show last night. I want to thank Nathan Brown, Wild Jute, Rock and Rant, and Moen for letting me come on aboard for a little bit. I ranted on the show. It is the reason why we did not have a live show. It's the reason why I did not have a live show last night. I could not. I am almost despondent about college football right now. The sport that I love, the sport that I report on, the sport that I spend so much time off camera working to give you guys the peek around the corner. I am up to here with reading about lawyers, advocacy groups, courts, judges. We got enough drama in college football. We got enough drama. We got the pageantry. We got the history. We got the competition. We got rivals like in no other sport, at least here in America. We got it all. We don't need all this crap that's going on every single day. From the very first day, now my title screen is Fed carve-out versus collective bargain agreement. Okay? That's the title screen of today's live show. We are going to go to your open line. We're going to open up the lines. You can talk anything in college football that you desire here in a little bit. We're going to be making our picks. Ohio State and Notre Dame against the spread. We're going to be doing that next. We're going to talk college football. We're going to talk about the large white egg, possible created by non-human intelligence. We're going to cover everything today. This is Scattershot Saturday. But I am going to start out with Fed carve-out versus collective bargain agreement. Because we need either one. Either one of them. We need it. We are on the precipice of destruction. I mean, there is no portal, there is no rules. Nobody can make a rule, and if they make a rule, most programs aren't following the rules. In fact, today, here on January 18th, I am declaring the Minnesota Golden Gophers as your 2024-25 national champions. Why not? 13-0, baby. Great. Greg, what about the score? Well, there's a bunch of rules that were violated, and we're not going to pay attention to that. I am so fed up with what we got right now. I am up to here with it. I have laid to waste on Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey. I don't think anything of either one of those two guys' leadership of the sport. And I've been raked over the coals by Big Ten people, by SEC people. Fine, bring it again to me today. Bring it again. That's fine. This is what this show is all about. But Kevin Warren, you made the porridge too hot. Tony Petitti, you've made the porridge too cold. I'm the fat guy from Minnesota, Mr. Goldilocks. I'm looking for a porridge that is just right. And okay, well, that's off to another discussion. I mean, good Lord. We are getting no leadership. Okay. So, yes, Rob Ryan is the new linebackers coach of USC Trojans. Very interesting. He hasn't coached in college ball for at least, I don't know, about 25, 26, 27. So I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while since Rob Ryan has coached in college football. Very interesting. From the very first episode of this creation of college football's Peek Around the Corner, I have lobbied for, we'll get to that story. Thank you, Rock and Rant. And again, Rock and Rant, I apologize to you and Nathan Brown and Wild Jude and Moen. I did not probably act in accordance in the way I should have acted last night. Emotions got the best of me, so I apologize to you, Rock and Rant. I have the very first episode, 3 years ago. I have, you go back all the way back. I think it was August 10th, 2022, 10 days before the Los Angeles Times article came out on me here at Peek Around the Corner, breaking the USC story. About August 10th. And I said, we need a collective bargaining agreement. These players need to be represented, and they need to have an agreement with the conferences or some governing body. And there's going to be a time shelf on that collective bargaining agreement, that CBA, where things are going to be adjusted every 5, 6, 7 years, and a new agreement, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And this is the key. I know I go after Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, but it isn't just those two guys. It's every guy and every gal out there. Let me explain something. It doesn't, there's probably a couple exceptions out there, probably a couple of them. But in every region of this country, private university, public university, from the Sun Belt to the Ivy League, from the Big Ten to the SEC, from the ACC to the Big 12, all these university institutions, all of them don't want their student athletes to become employees of the universities. Look at Dartmouth's reaction. Look at the Ivy League schools backing up Dartmouth on the players trying to unionize. It doesn't matter if the school is considered progressive or if the school is considered conservative or if they're in a conservative or liberal location of this country or anything in between. It doesn't seem to matter. They're all against it. That's like the only thing everybody agrees upon when it comes to the university leadership thoughts. So I'm sitting here banging my head against the wall, wanting a CBA, wanting a CBA. I don't want a governing body to conduct themselves the way that they've done for decades, where they have all the power. There's a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry in college sports, and there's not been enough voice for the student athletes. And there's not... Having said that, if we keep going on that way, there's going to be destruction. Having said that, if we go the other way, where there's no rules, 365 days of free agency, where the student athlete is getting paid way more. Look, I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for the free market. I am. But when it comes to the product of competition, I mean, you can't have the student athlete running everything either. Else we're not going to have a sport. We're not going to have a competition. All we're going to have is people doing athletic things on the field, but we're not going to have any real management of rosters, of the teams. There's not going to be competition. And then the golden goose that lays the golden egg, the golden goose is going to no longer exist. And we are the golden goose, the viewership, the love of the sport, the pageantry, the history. We give our money, we give our time, we give our interest to college football and these student athletes. They deserve higher compensation. They're getting it. They get all this. They deserved it. They've deserved it for decades. They haven't gotten it. But they can't have complete control of this either. They can't. This cannot end up like Major League Baseball, where the pendulum is the other way. So, the screen title is Fed Carve-Out versus Collective Bargain Agreement. And I've always been for the collective bargain agreement. I've always been for a union. I am pro-union. That's just my opinion. It doesn't have to be yours. I'm not as pro-union as many of you are. I'm probably more pro-union than many of you are. I believe in at least a threat of a union. I am much more supportive of private unions and private situations in private sector than I am for public. Some of you are for unions for everything. Some of you are unions for nothing. All I'm telling you is I am for the union where this is a threat, where the players can get true representation. Things change in sports. Things change in the NBA, for example. Collective bargaining agreement changes every 4 or 5 years. The players say, nah. Now the owners are getting too much. There's this new revenue source. They're getting too much of this or that. We need to talk about this in the new collective bargaining agreement. And then there are some things that change where the owners are like, The players, if they want this, they're going to have to do this, a drug test. And then they whatever it is. This is an example. Whatever it is, they negotiate it. Bam, 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 negotiate it. And then things can change. Things can evolve. We need that in this sport. But I've given up. I think I've given up. Unless somebody somebody can give me a phone call later in the show and say, Greg, don't give up. But I think I've given up on the CBA. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because all these universities, the presidents that tell their commissioners what they want, I think they're all against it. And there's another reason why I don't think, even if there's another problem with the CBA that I have not come to grips with until now. Remember, very first episode, it was my manifesto. CBA. So there is no more pro CBA guy than me. I was saying it 3 years ago, and the reason I said it 3 years ago, because I was saying it 10 years ago. Whatever. But now I'm having my doubts that a CBA would even work. Whatever this turns out to be, and I'm focusing more on college football, but it's got to involve all the college sports, obviously. But whatever this turns out to be, it can't be exactly like a sports franchise. It can't be a sports league, a professional sports league. It can't. I know everybody's saying it's got to become professionalized. It can't. Not 100%, it can't. It can't. You are never going to be able to tell a student athlete, you have to go to the school to get educated. Now, you might say, well, Greg, maybe we should split apart the athletic department and the university. Okay, so where this can become more professionalized. Okay, but I see no evidence, once again, that we are even close to these universities giving up their athletic department. So I don't even want to go down that route. I don't even think that rabbit hole exists right now. So, you're never going to have a draft. You're not going to be drafting players. Student athletes, just like any other students out there, are going to select their college. They're going to be free to enroll in a different college when they want. Okay? Number 2, we've got Title IX. Title IX is not going away. It's not going away. It's not going away. It's the law of the land. If they flip the law, it's not going away. There's going to be some version of it. And I happen to think that's a positive thing. I happen to think that Title IX has helped grow women's sports. The exposure, the access. Once you have access, so many things can happen in this free market. But you got to have access. You've got to have a foot in the door. And I think Title IX has brought about incredible changes. Do I agree with the latest Department of Education take on it? No, I don't. I think that's extreme, way off base. But I think Title IX has to be a part of it. So therefore, Title IX, we cannot professionalize everything in an athletic department. We cannot professionalize everything in our football programs and our basketball programs. We can't. These athletic departments, these schools are about growth of opportunity, not just winning up championships. There's only one champion every year in every sport. It's about growth of opportunities. That's why these athletic departments are always trying to see if they can, well, up until the House versus NCAA settlement, we'll see how things settle out after a couple years after that. But they're always trying to create more opportunities. The New York Rangers hockey team, they're not doing that. The Ottawa Senators, they're not doing that. The New York Yankees, they're not doing that. The Buffalo Bills are not doing that. So this is not a complete, we cannot get complete professionalism in this sport, college football, or any of these other sports. So, because I do not find any opportunity, any chance whatsoever in the near term, in the far term, to get a CBA that I would want. And if we got it, I'm afraid it would get all shredded and nicked apart by lawyers and courts, because this thing that we have, this thing that we want at least, is completely different than anything else. I think it needs, I can't believe I'm saying this. I said it last night and I had to slap myself. I can't I have mocked this, but now I'm praying that it happens. And it's not going to be perfect. It might not even be good. I'm praying for a federal carve-out, a federal law. A bipartisan federal carve-out. To say this is what the governing body is allowed to do. This is what the student athletes are going to be able to get. To set some guardrails, to make it so the governing body has the ability to rule and to enforce its rules, and then also have the ability of the student athlete to be able to complain, to be able to say, look, this isn't good enough for us, and somehow it goes to some sort of body, and hopefully, because it needs to be somewhat flexible. I know this, I'm dreaming now. I'm dreaming. A federal law doesn't do that. But something has to happen. No portal. Okay, no portal. We've got no portal, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 365 days of free agency. A player right now can leave a team on game 3 and go to another team and play on game 4 of the schedule. Now, we can't have that, but because we got no CBA, because we got no federal, we can't make any rules, and if we make a rule, we can't enforce it. We've got agents controlling the sport. We've got player agents who, I get it, their job is to represent their student athlete, to represent their client. I'm not saying they're evil people. I'm not saying that at all. But they are controlling the sport now. We've gone from a governing body that had no authority, legal authority, to a bunch of agents that are wrecking this thing. We need a federal carve-out. What are the chances of us getting that? I've always said slim to none. I'm going to go ahead. Mireya is eating pozole. Hi, Maria. The pozole is amazing. Mireya is in the house. Go ahead and eat your pozole, honey. I'm on a rant right now. But anyways. What am I saying that's not true? Oh, it's Expedition Greg. Okay. Sometimes I see the name Greg, and I might be saying something that's untrue. Anyways, what was I saying here? So, the carve-out, the federal carve-out. I think there's little to no chance, right? But I'm going to go ahead and I got to believe in something. I got to believe that somehow Senator Booker, the senator from Connecticut, Blumenthal, Cruz, and a few other ones, they can get some sort of bipartisanship and get something done here. And then have a sunset law, a provision in it, where after 5 years, after 4 years, after 3 years, they can go look at it again. Because there's got to be a little bit of flexibility in there. But this sport that we love, college football, it needs saving right now. I'm telling you, the college football fans are going to start walking away. They're going to start walking away. You cannot have it where there's no rules. That doesn't work in any sport, any organization. You got to be able to enforce it. And every time a rule is enforced, every single time, of course there's going to be some blowback, like that Michigan thing. Sorry, Michigan, but you broke the rule. No in-person scouting. And Big Ten Tony Petitti acted in accordance to the rules. Like, there's rules, guys, in your conference, in how you do things, and the conference and this governing body, whatever it's going to look like, it has to be enforceable. And punishment is going to be handed down. I cannot wait for the day. Look, every time, not every time, but most of the time, when a commissioner of the NBA or the commissioner of the NFL, when a commissioner says, you violated something franchise, you violated something players, here is your punishment, whatever it is. There's some blowback, but that's it. That's it. We need that in college football. We need the governing body to have some authority to enforce the rules, to make the rules. And they don't have that right now. And they've never really had that right. They've never had that authority. They've done it, but now you're being challenged. We need it. A Fed carve-out, a federal carve-out, or a CBA. Let me know which way you want it to go. Of course, I would vote CBA, but I think there's 0% chance of that happening. Unless somebody can convince me otherwise. So I'm going for the federal carve-out, as imperfect as that is. This sport needs to get it done. And Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, I know you do not have the power to change your president's opinions, even if you disagreed with them. I don't think either one of you do disagree. That's a problem I have. I think Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey think everything is hunky-dory. I think they believe they always have this fallback plan where they can split away from everybody, make their own rules. But you can't. You can't. You don't have the authority. The courts are going to ruin you. The lawyers are dancing on your grave. The advocacy groups are going wild. And while I'm pro student athlete, I'm pro, I live in a free society, absolutely love it. I cannot stand it. Every time I open up X, all I'm reading is lawyers, advocacy, courts, and judges picking apart the latest rule that the governing body has laid down, in which all the schools said they agreed to, but now. So get something done. Petitti and Sankey, get something done. Is it unfair that I'm pointing you two out? Who cares? Who cares? Both of you were born at third base. One of you became the SEC commissioner. One of you became the Big Ten commissioner. You got more power than everybody else combined. That's just the way it is. You got the power. Try to save the sport. I know you've been up to Congress a bunch of times. I get it. I get it. You've chosen no leadership on CBA. You mock it. You ridicule it. We can't even play one off the other. We can't put one leverage on the other because you've kicked one of those options in the you-know-what, and it can't come up off the mat. The CBA option. Okay, we're going to get to your... the rules are illegal. Okay, congrats. The rules are illegal. Can we get to the next stage of this? Everybody is so like... Okay, I just want to give everybody one more thing, and then we're going to get on to a couple of news items, and then we're going to go to your phone calls. Not every rule, and I know, and I'm sure Ed is not talking about this, but not every rule is covered by CBA. There are plenty of rules that the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, plenty of rules they make that is not covered by the CBA. And then when that happens, and then when the people who represent the players, the labor, they look at that rule change and they go, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. So in the next CBA, we are going to fight for this change. That's what happens. But not every rule is covered by, it doesn't. So whatever we get here, ladies and gentlemen, whatever we get this governing body, okay, whatever it is, they're going to have to make rules. And not all the rules are going to be covered by the carve-out or the CBA. We are getting to the point where we cannot have this governing body have to go to the courts every single time they make a rule. Like sometimes, by the way, these rules, I know people are picking on the NCAA. These rules, NCAA is the evil person, right? The evil organization. The NCAA exists because of the university presidents. The university presidents funds them. The university presidents give them direction. The university presidents gives them the guardrails. It's the university presidents. I mean, the NCAA is some boogeyman out there that everyone lays their problems to. Oh, my school got picked on because of this violation. That NCAA, they have no right. It's the university presidents that made the NCAA. So, okay, let's get on to we are going to get to phone calls here. This is Scattershot Saturday. Ryan, really, college sports will ruin the professional leagues, especially if players can change teams whenever they want. Well, that's not going to happen in the sports leagues, professional sports. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for the super chat. Thank you so very much. I do appreciate your generosity once again. It can't happen because it would ruin the sport. You got to have binding contracts. You got to have it. Else we're not watching anything, guys and gals. We're not watching competition. Got to be binding contracts. There is no binding contracts right now. We just had an incident where Wisconsin, a player wanted to go in the portal. Wisconsin refused. But, he already enrolled at Miami, and there is no portal, and now he's a Miami Hurricane. And that contract that he signed with Wisconsin isn't valid until whenever this House versus NCAA settlement happens. It's not valid in July. But we got to make sure at some point that whenever it is, August, September, whenever it is, that if a student athlete signs an NIL contract with a school, and that school has their owns their NIL, owns their name, image, and likeness. Let's say it's a 2-year contract. If that player wants to leave that school and go to another school, okay. Again, this is not professional sports. That student athlete is going to have the freedom to go enroll in any school that he wants to go to. But again, if he becomes a student athlete and plays for another football team, for example, that football team, if they want that gentleman's NIL, they're going to have compensation, give compensation to the school that owns it in that contract. Contracts have to be binding among the student athletes, among the players. Just like, else we don't have a sport. I mean, we might as well just close it up. We might as well just close the door on all of it. If we're going to have 365-day of free agency, then we might as well just lock it up. College football will not survive that. Now, I know some people are saying, yeah, total freedom, yay. Well, good, congratulations, you got it. But then now there is no sport. Now there is no more sport. No more competition. Okay, couple things here. People have talked about it. Brett McMurphy announced Steve Sarkisian agrees to contract extension with Texas after declining interviews with two NFL teams, sources said. Texas Board of Regents chairman were the key figures in getting the deal done, source said. Sarkisian has led Texas to consecutive CFB playoff semifinal berths in double digits with seasons for first time in 17 years. The fact Sarkisian didn't take any NFL interviews shows his buy-in and commitment to the University of Texas, a source said. So Sarkisian did not take any interviews. A new contract. Great news for Texas. You all know that I'm a big believer in Sark. I think he's a plus coach. What I mean by that is, I think, when you talk about like an NBA defender, you say he's a plus defender. He makes a positive impact on the defensive side of the court. Plus defender. I think Sarkisian is a plus coach. I think he makes the team better in his coaching. And I think he's getting better and better and better. In Texas, the Longhorns, there's a very good chance PATC is going to have them number one in the way too early PATC rankings. I believe in Texas. I believe in Sark. So I think that is great news. Great news for Texas. Now let's get this on. Let's get this done before we go on to one more story and your phone calls. Greg the Gold. Cannot lose this one. I will not lose this one. I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of losing as much I'm sick of lawyers, advocacy groups, and agents, and the NCAA, and the presidents, and the commissioners. No more losing. Okay, let's get it going. Let's get it going. Okay. We are going to have you guys make the selection first. Ohio State and Notre Dame. We are using a different line here. We're using the updated line. A lot of money has gone on the Irish here lately. It was Notre Dame plus 9.5. It's been bet down to plus 8.5. A lot of late money has come on the Irish. Does Ohio State cover the minus 8.5 point spread versus Notre Dame? If you vote yes, you're taking the Buckeyes and you're willing to give 8.5. If you vote no, you want the plus 8.5 points, and the fight in Irish, the voting begins now. Steel Austin says Buckeyes easily cover. Ray, Bucks by 21, so pick Notre Dame, Greg. Holy smokes. Steven Vitt got the Buckeyes winning 28-17. Rock and Rant, this is going to be a landslide. MBM, Ohio State minus 11. Bo Weevil, Bucks by 17. Holy smokes. And it is a landslide. It is a landslide. I'm going to give 5 more seconds on this landslide vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 74% takes the Buckeyes. It is an absolute rout. The PATC geniuses out there, the genius, have the Buckeyes over Notre Dame. Okay? Well, this is my selection now. I have been very pro Fighting Irish a couple weeks after the Northern Illinois debacle. The debacle at home against Northern Illinois. But I thought Penn State was going to be able to take advantage between the guards, between the tackles. I thought Penn State was going to be able to pound Notre Dame into the ground. But again, I think Andy Koltenicky got a little too cute. Drew Allen could not complete a pass. Not one single pass to the receivers. Notre Dame was vulnerable for the taking that night against the Nittany Lions. But again, all the question marks I have about Drew Allen, it just came up that night once again. The Buckeyes are playing on a completely different level than anybody else is. And I think Texas, for the most part, played a great game. A great game. And they hung with the Buckeyes. I don't think Riley Leonard is going to be able to do 3rd down and 4 design running plays and pick up the first down. Time after time after time. I don't think he's going to be able to do that to the Buckeyes. Not this Buckeye team. We talk about the great secondary of Notre Dame. Absolutely. Will Howard is going to struggle at times. Absolutely. But what about Notre Dame? I don't think they're going to be able to throw the ball at all. Jeremiah Love, he looks healthy. He says he's healthy. An absolute beast. Jadarian Price. But I think the Buckeyes roll in this game. I really, 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 really do. That 21 points that was put up earlier by Ray, I agree with Ray. I think the Buckeyes win this game by 3 touchdowns. And at the end of the game, we are going to be saluting the Buckeyes, national champions, Ryan Day. But we're also going to be saying Marcus Freeman did one hell of a job. Congratulations to the Irish. But I got the Buckeyes winning this. I got the Ohio State Buckeyes being your 24-25 national champions. So that's my take. I agree with the PATC family. Angeli. Well, Angeli is, he may be used. He may be used during the game. That'd be kind of fun if he was. He'll probably be the starter for game 1 for Notre Dame next year. Okay, one more item I want to talk about here. And it's not about college football. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on 1 second. And then we're going to talk about, then we're going to open up the phone lines. But I've got one more. This is Scattershot Saturday. You can talk about anything you want in college football or the subject that I'm about to bring up. And you guys know what subject I'm about to bring up, right? The large white egg. Oh, yeah. Mick Cronin's rant. Okay, you're right about that. Hold on a second, guys. No, I'm not going to be talking about realignment, Donald Duck. Except for well, that wasn't I was going to talk about Mick Cronin's rant, but I think I'm going to push that off still, Austin. Mick Cronin, a UCLA basketball coach, talking about travel issues with UCLA. I think I'm going to push that off to next week. I do want to talk about UCLA, though. But I don't want to talk about it here. You can give me a call later in the show with or a super chat or something, and you can express your feelings on it. But I want to talk about UCLA next week, after the championship game. I've got some things to say about UCLA. Not just about Mick Cronin. Not just about Mick Cronin. Oh, I agree, Stormy. I absolutely agree. I think the chances of a Fed carve-out is slim to none, and I'm rooting for Slim with everything I got. But CBA, you're talking about slow? The possibilities of a CBA right now, I wish someone, maybe someone today can convince me not to lose hope on that. But I've got no hope right now on a CBA. None. Zero. Absolutely zero. But let me know where I can find hope in a CBA. Okay. I'm going to put up another poll question. Are you watching News Nation at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard tonight? 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time. It looks like a landslide. It looks like a lot of no. Now I'm going to be explaining what is on News Nation at 8 o'clock tonight, and then I'm going to ask the question again. Stephen Vitt? No, I'm watching YouTube videos. Steve Still Austin, we only watch PATC Greg the Gold. Okay, I'm going to get the voters 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 81% says no. Well, on News Nation tonight, Greg, I don't get the channel. Okay. There is a chance that I'm going to be coming on live tonight. So if you didn't watch the episode, if you didn't watch News Nation, right after that, now it's going to be a 1 hour show from 7 o'clock Central to 8 o'clock Central. 8 o'clock Eastern Time to 9 o'clock Eastern Time. I might do a live show right afterwards, depending on what they show us. Jack Barber. Jack Barber is the name. Thank you, Expedition Greg, for Ross Dellinger. I'll get to that in a little bit. There's been updates even since we started this live show. There's going to be a lot of meetings this weekend, right? Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Power conferences, the commissioners, the presidents. So many things are going on. There's a whole bunch of drama in the ACC right now. Holy smokes. And you can talk about it with your phone calls, with your super chats. Here is a gentleman that I want to show you. Mr. Jake Barber. Jake Barber. Remember the name. Jake Barber. Go follow him at Jake Barber 2025. He joined X on January 2025. Jake Barber was interviewed. By News Nation. Jake Barber is Delta Force, a helicopter pilot, the tip of the spear. Tonight, it's reported that he's going to be talking about him and 3 other whistleblowers. First-hand whistleblowers is being reported. First-hand whistleblowers. Jake Barber is going to go on News Nation tonight, and he's going to talk about how he has been a part of crash retrievals. Crash retrievals of United States government's highly technical, highly advanced, not publicly out there, aerial craft that goes down to the ground, crashes, whatever. He has been a part of that retrieval apparatus. He's a helicopter, one of the top helicopter pilots in the world. He's Delta Force. These are the guys that you call in when things are really getting real. But he's also said that he's been part of crash retrievals in which they've picked up objects that are non-human intelligence, not created by us. He has been told in this report, and it's going to be tonight on News Nation, 8 o'clock tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. He has said it has been confirmed to him by people in the task force, government level, federal level, government task force. Someone confirmed to him that this object that they're going to talk about tonight that they picked up was developed non-human intelligence. And it's not unique. In other words, I think he's going to tell everybody they've done this multiple times. Tonight, okay, seems like a psyops, okay? Black Ops employees have to be debriefed, okay? Here's more of the story. Because a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't know. Okay. Everything that you're going to see tonight on this show, and I'm going to tell you what some of that is, has been given to Arrow, the government agency that is supposedly investigating these anonymous events that airline pilots or Air Force fighter jet pilots or people in the Navy, whatever, all these things that are going on that is not easily explainable, goes to AARO, AARO, Everything that you're going to see tonight was given to this agency headed up by Dr. Fitzpatrick. But, by the way, everything that Jack Barber and 3 of his men have given to this agency, they've lost. The government lost everything. But Jack Barber and his guys have kept what they gave to them. In other words, they didn't give them the original. They've got it in their hands, and they're going to show it tonight. Everything that they gave to the government supposedly, oops, we lost it. So, not only does Arrow know about this, everything that's being shown tonight, but senators, senator staffs, some congressional, depending on what committee you're at. So what they're showing tonight, what they're going to talk about tonight, has been given to certain congressional people. Now, what are they going to show tonight? Look, I can only, I don't know. I mean, I do know, okay, first of all, they're going to show a video. According to Jack Barber, according to Colhart, the guy in News Nation who did the interview, they're going to show a video of a crash retrieval of a large white egg, an object that looks like a large white egg. And it's from a helicopter. The video, I believe, comes from a helicopter, and there's it's called the long line. Whatever this thing coming down from the helicopter, and this helicopter, I guess, is like a, I don't know the name of the helicopter, but it's one of it's the top line helicopter, Delta Force, that can lift up the heaviest objects. So the helicopter comes within 150 to 200 feet of the object as it picks it up. So Jack Barber was 150 to 250 feet away from the object. Here is some of the stuff here. So the problem is, according to Jack Barber, and he's got 3 other people that are going to be confirming everything. All 4 whistleblowers. And supposedly there's a whole bunch of whistleblowers ready to come out. This crash retrievals are only done at nighttime. So this video is going to be night video. And I think it's going to be video through night vision camera, night vision infrared, or night vision goggles, or something to that effect. So I don't know how good the video is going to be, right? It's not going to be like a daytime video where you have a camera and you're walking up to a large white egg. I don't think it's going to be that. So I think the video is going to be interesting, right? We've never seen a supposed video of a crash retrieval. If you believe, But beyond the video, we are supposedly going to get pictures, images of this large white egg-looking object. And even more importantly than probably the video in the images, we are going to be receiving, supposedly tonight, data, sensory data. Like, they know the signatures of this object. They know the heat signature, if it's giving out any heat. There's no sign of propulsion. This object was flying around, but how was it flying around? They have data on that. It's something that we do not have We don't believe the Chinese have. The Russians definitely don't have it. So all this stuff is coming out tonight. And we'll see how big a story this is. What's interesting about the large white egg object is there has been other stories about a large white egg looking object. In 2004, we had Colonel David Fravor, who was the top pilot of, I forget the naval ship, but in 2004, there was a Tic Tac. Remember the Tic Tac story? A Tic Tac and a large white object, egg object, they can be the same object, right? Not much difference in you describing a large white egg object versus a Tic Tac, especially when that Tic Tac is whizzing by you. Also, when it comes to 1947 Roswell, supposedly, according to Lou Elizondo and other people, reports back in the 1940s, late 1940s, there were two objects that crashed. The second object that crashed was reported as a large white egg object that was found a couple years later. Anyways, so large white egg object is a promotional advertisement for Chick-fil-A. I don't know about that. Helmer Henderson, there has been some speculation Oklahoma is holding the defensive coordinator job open for, wow, really? For the Ohio State defensive coordinator. Wow. I have not seen that speculation. I would be a little surprised. I would be shocked, actually. Helmer Henderson, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to poke and prod on that. I am going to poke and prod on it. I don't know why a defensive coordinator, Mr. Knowles, would, Brent Venables, it's always going to be, that defense is always going to be some part ownership will be given to Brent Venables. I think the defensive coordinator of the Buckeyes gets to call his own shots at Ohio State. Unless Brent Venables and Knowles are somehow friends or something. I do not, I don't know if that's speculation coming out of Michigan because they got to take an elbow shot or if that is real. But thank you, Helmer Henderson, for the super chat. I will be poking and prodding on that one. Rack and Rand is correct. We just saw the Penn State guy go to Clemson. So maybe, we shall see. The egg from Mork and Mindy. Well, there you go. Godzilla type egg. Anyways, if this show, if the video or the images or the data or if it's a mighty interesting, I think I'm going to pop up on here live a little bit after the show. So if you got any time, join us. Right now, we're going to open up the phone lines, Scatty Shot Saturday. Give me a call on anything you want to talk about in college football. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Thank you, Helmer Henderson, for your support donation. I do appreciate it.
From
Rick.
Rick is on the line. The floor is yours.
Well, let's talk a little bit of football.
All right.
I've always seen it, and maybe some others do, but maybe not everyone. I've always seen this as an issue between the players and the owners. And the owners, of course, are the individual college teams, the conferences, and the NCAA, who's been sleeping with the owners for 100 years. The players, of course, are the people who are making the money. And it's almost like a civil war where you got to choose the North or the South. You got to either be for the players or for the owners. Even during the American Revolution, you had some people who, you're either for the British or for the American Patriots, and those that weren't, they watched Canadian football. But the thing is, this is going to get resolved. This was all brought about and discussed by Judge Kavanaugh years ago.
Yep.
In the Alston case.
Yes.
When he wrote his decision, part of the unanimous decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in 2021. Here we are, 2025, 4 years later, and the war is going on. And that's what it is. It's a civil war between the players and the owners. And, nobody was happy between 1861 and 1865, regardless of which side of the border you are on. But it had to be resolved. And this is going to get resolved.
Well,
it's not the college football that we all knew and loved. Those days are long gone. That was a multi-million-dollar corporation that was being run by only one group, the people who were receiving the money. Those days are long gone. Now it's a billion-dollar corporation, multi-billion, and the money is being spread to both sides, as it should be, but it's not being spread equally. And it's going to get resolved.
When you say it's going to get resolved, how is it going to get resolved?
Well, there are different ways it can go, and some of them aren't good. Just like the Civil War.
Okay.
And I said because there were a bunch of battles that, depending upon which side you cared for, didn't turn out so good. But in the end, it was resolved. And I say that because I call them you know my position. I'm all for the players, and the NCAA, which is foolish. You call it an organization, but it's not. They're not regulating. They haven't for a while. And when they did, they were again sleeping with the owner, with the conferences and the universities.
Because they were created by the conferences and universities.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bad thing.
Yeah, it is. But I don't want, and I get your pro for the players and everything, and I've always considered myself for the players because I've been for a CBA, and I still am. I just don't see how it's going to happen. But you got more faith in it. But again, I don't want this to be MLB either. I mean, there was a resolution with MLB, and I think it has hurt Major League Baseball quite a bit. You got a lot of franchises where the fans don't even show up. You've got it to where there is no competition except for a few ball teams. We can't have it that way either. So there's got to be.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
So again, how does this? You say it's going to get resolved, but I'm thirsting for someone to say, Greg, it's going to happen with the collective bargaining agreement because at some point these presidents of all these universities are going to get backed up to the wall, and they're going to have to claim, they're going to have to state that their student athletes can and should become employees. None of them are saying that. None of them. Until you get that, we are so far away from a CBA. Until we get to a CBA, this whole thing might be destroyed before we get to it. That is my worry.
Did you get a chance to read that article I mentioned yesterday?
Yeah, someone sent it to me. Someone actually sent it to me like 2 minutes after we got out. Someone found it. I read a little bit of it. I can't remember what I read right now. I have been extremely busy, but I will go back to it. I do have it though, sir. I do have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the universities potentially? The Duke Law professor suggesting that the universities could relinquish control of the sports programs and opt instead for an organization to run as a private equity, contracting with the school.
Mm-hmm.
That would work.
Yeah. Well,
it wouldn't be the way things are now.
Yeah.
And it certainly wouldn't apply to all the smaller schools that, aren't going to be able to come up with the money. But for the top 50, I see that as an option.
Well, again, I'm just waiting. Look, I'm not sitting here and saying that I am not. Everything being equal, I'm of course way more pro CBA than I am federal carve-out. I just at this point I see 0%. Like there's nothing going on there with the CBA and the federal carve-out. While it's going to be imperfect, it's going to get antitrust issue. They're going to. It's going to be like pounding in a square into a round hole, and it's not going to be workable. But it's got to be something. Something's got to happen because this can't continue. People are being turned off on this, man. So speed, perfection, cannot be the enemy of good of getting something done. Something's got to get done here, quick.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, appreciate it. Rick, thank you so very much. Call again, sir.
Will do. Thank you.
I agree with Rick. I don't have faith. I do not have faith. I don't have faith that something is going to get resolved. And it's got to be, this cannot go on. This cannot go on. There's no way that this can go on. I know people are talking about, I don't know who this, I don't know who this Sawyer is you guys are talking about. I don't know who that guy is. Texas A&M, I've never heard anything at all about A&M going to the Big Ten. People talk about it every year. I have never talked about it in my monologue because all the people that I talk to, and the Rolodex is pretty big, none of them have ever brought up why would Texas A&M go to the Big Ten? Because they don't like Texas? Texas A&M wants all the southeastern schools, their fan bases, to go to the football stadium. Texas wants their baseball teams to. Texas A&M has no interest in the Big Ten. None. Zero. Nada.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan, can you hold on for one moment, please?
Yes.
Ryan Willie, thank you for the super chat once again. I totally disagree with Rick. The players are going to kill the golden goose. Well, if the Golden Goose is destroyed, it's mainly going to be by the hands of those who refuse to change the system, which are the university presidents. Ultimately, they're going to get blamed. But I also would agree that, the players and their agents, right now, the agents are controlling the sport. The sport is not going to grow. It's not going to get better. It's not going to get wealthier. It's not going to get healthier. It's not going to get more viewerships. This is what's going on right now is not going to work either. So I do agree with Ryan Willie on that point. But ultimately, the control, the decision makers of the university presidents, I think they got to get their head out of the sand, or we need a miracle shot. We need a special carve-out. And I talked about it earlier, previously in the monologue. The CBA is going to be a miracle shot because it can't be quite 100% professionalism because of Title IX, because of the fact that student athletes are going to. You cannot control student athletes' movement, where they want to go to school. I do understand what Rick said earlier about, the ownership of the athletic departments being taken over by private equity or whatever, to where you can make it more professionalism, where the athlete is not tied to the student. But again, the students have shown no interest at all in any of these changes. Go ahead, Sir Tristan. The floor is yours. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Greg.
You got it.
I haven't been able to see all those shows recently. I wanted a quick update. I think you were talking on one of the shows about the potential for private equity to be kind of making up the revenue difference in the ACC, and that's one of the things that's on the table. You've been saying that recently, right?
Well, mainly it's on the table for the Big 12 at a conference level. ACC can't get the traction with that because you got two schools suing the conference, and the conference is suing two schools. There are ACC schools that are pro-private equity. There are Big 12 schools that are pro-private equity. So I hopefully that helps out explain where we're at right now.
Okay, so one of the schools that is not opposed to it at this juncture is UNC, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So here's what I wanted to say about that. I wanted to make sure I understood where everything was. So we've been talking about, just over the last year and a half, about the lack of direction at UNC, where everyone's not on the same page exactly.
Yep.
And I think that this push for private equity, to the extent that it's happening at UNC,
Yep.
Greg, I think that's coming from the camp that says we want to keep the ACC together. And the reason I am saying that is that, and then again, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but both the Big Ten and the SEC have not come out in favor of private equity. They're somewhat opposed to it right now, correct?
Well, and especially their media partners are absolutely against it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I see this, if that faction at UNC that wants private equity, if that were to actually happen, I see that as a move that's intended to keep the ACC together and to keep UNC in the ACC. And this goes back to what I was telling you. I can't even remember when it was. I think it was last off season. But there's so much special interest in North Carolina to keep the ACC together because it's such a big economic engine for the state. With all the schools that are there, the conference headquarters are there, they have the championship game and the ACC basketball tournament. All the tournaments of significance happen in North Carolina. And there's a lot of revenue that comes into the state from all that. And I don't see UNC, I don't see the Tar Heels being able to break away from those special interests. I think I think they're going to be kind of kept in place unless the conference just completely falls apart against their wishes and they have no choice but to leave. I think that this story that we're talking about, or that you've been mentioning about private equity, from the UNC side of the world, that's coming from the people who want to keep the ACC together, and they want to keep UNC in the ACC.
I think that's a very good point. I absolutely, it's coming from people that want North Carolina to have the same, in the ACC, to have the same options going forward as the Big 12. They want to have the same, they want to be able to say yes, they want to be able to say no, same options when it comes to private equity at a conference level or at a school level. They want to have the same options as the Big 12. So, and in doing so, if they have the same options, way better chance that the ACC can stay together, and all that stuff. I agree with you, sir. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the Buckeyes, I think they're going to win big. This is their year. Everyone, and I know the game has to be played before we can say all this, but man, get off of Greg Day's back, or excuse me, get off of his back. Ryan Day, he's a good coach. Greg, I became convinced on him when they nearly beat Georgia and basically just missed the field goal. I knew he was a good coach at that point. And yeah, not every coach wins the big game. I mean, look, Kirby Smart has trouble against Alabama. Ryan Day has trouble against Michigan. But look, they're going to win it this year, and people need to just cut him some slack, man. He's a good coach, in my opinion. And they're going to prove it on Monday night.
Well, I tell you, since I have, since we did the PATC rendition of Love on the Rocks, of Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, since we did that rendition, Ryan Day hasn't lost the game since. So,
Greg, he owes it all to you.
Yes, he does.
Hey, listen, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it, my man. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Great call.
Bye-bye.
Call again. Beautiful call. This is Scattershot Saturday. Give us a call. Anything. Open line. The lines are open for you. I'm done talking. I'm done talking about the large white egg that we're going to see tonight at News Nation, unless you bring it up in a phone call. I'm done talking about CBA versus federal carve-out, unless you talk about it in your phone call. I'm done talking about the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes beating the Irish, unless you bring it up in a phone call.
Call from
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, Ryan Willie is on the line. The floor is yours, sir.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
The reason why I said that the players are going to ruin college sports and the professional leagues is that if they can go to a team, change teams within a week or so, and constantly change teams, how are they going to get enough film on them to be make it to the NFL or NBA or anything like that? Eventually, it's going to affect the professional leagues.
If the players can leave weekly, and it wouldn't have to be that many players, right? It would just be a handful of players every whatever. I tell you, the fans are just going to walk away. And if you got the fans walking away, now you've destroyed the golden goose. Yep.
Well, that decision on Xavier Lucas basically said that there's no rules for the players, so they can do whatever the heck they want.
Right now, the players can do whatever they want. And just like the NCAA was able to do whatever they want. And we can't have either one. We can't have either one of them happening. So there's got to be some guardrails on both, or this sport that we love, absolutely adore, and it's given so many opportunities to so many people in our country, this sport is going to diminish in size rapidly.
And that's why I'm losing interest in college football right now.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
All right,
All right,
so
man. I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Appreciate it, my man. we kept interrupting each other. Sorry about that, Ryan Willie. I mean, look, me being for a federal carve-out is pretty much everything I'm against. Like, no, we don't need the government on this. No, we don't. But I will take it now. I will take it. Whatever you got, Senator Booker, Ted Cruz, as long as it's somewhat bipartisan, it's not going to be, 50-50 both ways. Whatever you got, bring it in. Let's do this thing. And it's not going to be perfect. It's probably not even going to be good. I'm probably going to be complaining. But whatever it is, we need something to where the courts, the lawyers, the advocacy groups, and the NCAA, they cannot control this everything. Something has to be done, and the timing is important now. This is getting out of hand. If those contracts are not binding at all come this August between these institutions and the players, what a car wreck.
Call from
Replica.
Replica, Mr. Texas Longhorns. Congratulations, Sarkisian. New contract. The floor is yours.
There's no need for congratulations on that. That's just Jimmy Sexton throwing his weight around like he did last year. So
All right.
I don't think anybody expected that to happen. So
Yeah.
and I'll throw this out there too. Prime's not going to Dallas either. There's
Yes.
a lot of reasons why it won't happen, but I'll wait till that's official. But
What was
I
that
want to
now?
kinda
Did
get
you
in-
say that was official?
I said I'll wait till that's
Okay,
official
got it.
before I talk about it, but
Yes,
he's
sir.
not going anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of want to just talk about like the future of the sport and kind of what we need. We need leadership. We need people to kind of step up and do what they're put in position to do, because it's easy to show your face and make public statements. When it's time to talk about the money and the power, but when it comes time to be in the public, when it's time to deal with responsibility, it's like, where's Sankey? Where's Petiti? Where's Charlie Baker, and then the university president? They have to come up with solutions to these problems. They neglected it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the solution be implemented. I have ideas of what they could do, but whether it's a CBA or whether they need to carve out from Congress, I think they're going to have to get involved at some point, because nobody wants to grab the wheel of the ship. And you can't just let the ship hit an iceberg because nobody wants to leave. I think they need to implement a transfer window, similar to how they do in soccer. And for those who don't watch, I try to explain it. There are 2 transfer windows in the year where players can move. You have the summer transfer window, and this varies from country to country, but generally the consensus is from the 1st of June to the end of August is when players can transfer, and then in the winter you have from the 1st of January to the end of the month. Now, ignore the timetables. That's not the really important part, but the way the process works is you have teams who sign players to contracts, because, again, this is professional now. We're going to have contracts anyway, because that's how you solve all this just up and moving from school to school. But when a team wants to acquire a player in soccer, they have to buy out the contract.
Yep.
And the team that is losing the player is compensated for the
Yes.
loss of that player. I give you an example. Cristiano Ronaldo. When Cristiano Ronaldo was a young player at Manchester United, just blew up on the scene, was doing things we had never seen a player that young do before. And Real Madrid, which is outside of Cowboys, the biggest sports brand in the world, they wanted Cristiano Ronaldo to help rebuild and go into their next era. So they had to enter into contract negotiations with Man United. They ended up paying them 100 million British pounds, and that fee, that compensation, bought out Ronaldo's contract with Man United. Once that fee was agreed to, they were able to negotiate with Ronaldo on a contract to play at Real Madrid. They call it personal terms. You negotiate with the player, you agree to personal terms, and then you have it agreed in structure on both sides. The team that is losing the player is compensated, and the player is compensated with the new contract. We need that kind of structure in the college football. That way, say Xavier Lucas wants to go to Miami, but Miami needs to contact the University of Wisconsin and negotiate that buyout so that they're compensated for that loss, and is done in a structured manner where you don't have to get the courts involved and refusing to enter a player to the portal, which is unconstitutional. Like, you can't have those kind of things. And this is all happening because we don't have the leadership to make this happen. The NCAA can implement these rules if they wanted to, but they've been so stripped of their power.
Well, I don't even know. I'm at the point where I'm not even sure they can implement any rules anymore because the lawyers are circling around like a bunch of vultures, taking advantage of everything. The schools, the athletic departments they're not falling in line on any rules either. If it goes against them on something, they say, we're not going to follow it. So I get that there's no leadership. Again, I don't think much of Petiti and Sankey at all. I don't.
Well, it's not just them; it's the presidents as well.
I know
they have to.
And by the way, and I said it early on the show, like, all these presidents are united in not wanting to change, not wanting for these student athletes to become employees where they're not truly represented in a CBA. They're all united on this. That's why
they're gonna be compensated more money, and now you can't drive a Cybertruck. You may have to drive a Hyundai or a Lexus.
Yeah.
Can't drive a Mercedes Benz. You're gonna have to sacrifice something as far as the lifestyle goes in order to support what college sports is going to look like in the future. And if the NCAA doesn't have the power to make these changes, then all the FBS schools and their leadership needs to come together and withdraw their membership of the NCAA and establish a new governing body that can institute checks and balances to the sport that we need. And maybe that's what Congress needs to assist them in doing, but there has to be the will from those universities and their leadership. And we can't just keep putting our heads in the sand because we don't like where the sport is heading. You either want this sport to continue and to thrive, or you don't. And it's too much at stake. There are entire states where their economy depends on college athletics, like Alabama.
Yeah.
Or Mississippi, or other states.
Whatever this is, it can't continue. Timing is everything here. We got to get something done. What do you think about the championship game here? Buckeyes, Notre Dame. Buckeyes favored by 8.5. What do you think, Replica?
It's going to take a tall order. I'm not going to lie. Riley Leonard is going to have to play the game of his life to give them a chance to win. Conventional wisdom says it should be a blowout, but I feel like it'll be like a backdoor cover where the game isn't close early, but as the game progresses, they may get a chance to get back in it and kind of keep it close. But Ohio State is the Death Star. I said it before. There's not a lot of weaknesses on that team, and usually, in order to beat teams like that, you need a quarterback who can go above the X and O's and kind of put the team on his back.
Yep.
He has the running element, but I don't think that's going to be any good against a team with that kind of speed. So we'll see if he can make some plays with his arm and keep it close.
Yep. All right, sir. Replica, I appreciate the call, my man.
All right, have a good one.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Replica, Mr. Longhorn. Beautiful. Steel Austin, Kaufman, JLM77, Congo, and Terry Kane. You were just gifted a membership. College football's peak around the corner. Hold on.
Call from.
Larry the GM.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press
Larry GM, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the call. Steel Austin, Kaufman, JLM77, Congo, Terry Kane. You've been just gifted a membership. So you can go to our YouTube channel and check out early P. Cloak and Dagger episodes for members only. Congratulations, you are all knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Larry the GM, Mr. Longhorn, the floor is yours.
So, Greg, I hear your frustration. I really enjoyed your conversation with the Big 12 Mafia last night, and you know, we're in a really challenging point with college athletics, and I say college athletics because I think it's bigger than football. I think if the university presidents could just make the football players and the basketball players, both male and female, employees and all that came with it, they probably would be way less reticent to do that. But the problem is once they make one of them an employee, I think then they're looking at, well, then I've got, you know, the hundreds of athletes that are on scholarship or, you know, in our athletics program now are employees, and the price tag just ballooned dramatically.
Yeah, and what is like, and what is the what would be the legal argument or economic argument of only having the football players and the basketball players as employees and none of the other student athletes? Because some of the other student athletes actually do play in sports that make revenue for their athletic department. Not a whole lot of them, but there are exceptions out there. So why wouldn't they become employees? And so you almost have to treat all of them the same. Go ahead, sir.
Right, that's exactly the point, right? Because the LSU gymnastics program, they used to pack them into the arena there, right? And that program had, those girls had, a lot of them had huge NIL deals. So, you know, it's interesting to think about. Like, okay, so Greg, the problem is I have less. I mean, I know your frustration, but I have less confidence that a federal mandated solution can withstand the scrutiny of a legal challenge, right? And I hear your frustration, like, okay, it's all illegal. I think we're headed to a really difficult point here, Greg, where we're going to have to say, what is the role of college athletics in these universities? Take a really big step back, Greg. Like, if they're not employees, because they sure look like employees, at least the football team, they're making their university at the highest level millions and millions and millions of dollars. Right, they're a revenue generating machine. They sure look like employees. So when the Supreme Court was really very direct with the NCAA, like, these people are employees, you got to start thinking about them as employees. That was the basic direction from the Supreme Court years ago.
the problem is, like as I said, well, if they're employees, then why isn't the curling team or
Yeah.
the swim team, all these others that may not be really generating revenue? So
yeah. And you got Title IX, and you got Title IX that
and Title IX, right?
so it can't be
of,
treated exactly like a professionalized situation. It can't.
It can't, but it's almost like the Supreme Court's telling them they have to be, right?
Well,
I mean, that's the problem.
Well, yes, and that's why, and it's great. And I look, I'm having an internal fight here, right? Because I'm pro CBA, but a federal carve out. I look. Let me put it to you this way. If 3 weeks from now, or okay, forget 3 months from now, if we wake up and a miracle happens and there's a federal carve out and there's bipartisanship and it's signed and Trump says he's going to sign it, blah, 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 and I'm going to look at it and say, well, I don't like this, that, but I do like that, blah. I'm going to, there's going to be part of me that says, thank God something got done. Now, if the court, people want to go at it, okay, go at it, but at least we got something to where a governing body can actually enforce stuff and everybody's playing by the same rules, because we don't have that. We're not even close to that. We need that.
Well, Greg, that's what I don't quite understand. Like, the conferences can make rules.
Oh, they make a lot of rules. Absolutely.
Why aren't the conferences stepping up to make rules? Because I understand why the NCAA has constantly been slapped down in the courts, because I'm not even sure what legal standing the NCAA has, and if that's the constant battle they're facing.
Yeah.
Right? And the conferences have legal standing.
Yeah, that's what Kavanaugh said, right? Or that's what he alluded to. But I don't even trust that anymore. If the SEC came out and said, okay, SEC players, you only can go in the portal between January 2nd and January 12th, eventually that's going to get shot to hell. We have, and I want there to be more free. I want there to be higher compensation and more freedom for the players. I'm all for that. But I also know, Larry the Jim, I also know that the lawyers, the vultures are just circling around here. I know that these lawyers on X, I'm not going to say any names, I don't want to get sued, but I do know 100%, I do know that some of them are getting paid by agents for these lawyers to constantly put out this propaganda. I don't want to read it. It's so overwhelming right now. So go, I'm frustrated on both sides now, equally.
Right, and I hear you, Greg, and I understand that frustration. I feel it too. But okay, so the SEC has this rule, right, where if you go in the spring portal, you can't transfer within the conference.
Yep.
Right? No, that's been a rule for multiple years.
Yeah.
And nobody has successfully sued the SEC against that rule.
I don't think anyone's tried yet. Yep, that's true.
I think the reason they haven't tried is because they know that the SEC has standing to make that kind of rule. I guess my point.
Yeah. You bring up a good point.
My application point is no one's attacking. I mean, because I think that would be the most easy rule for lawyers to go after, right? And the SEC itself may want to change that rule, Greg, just between you and me. But the point being is that no one has successfully even mounted, that I'm aware of, has mounted a challenge to that rule, because I think they understand the SEC is a private entity that governs all these public and private universities. They all are bound together by contracts to be together, and I think if, like you alluded to, the Supreme Court was basically saying, if you want governance, you need to do it at that level. right? That's your governance. That is your governance path, such that when a athlete in any sport signs their national letter of intent or whatever they're replacing that with, it's a binding contract to play athletics in that conference. And if they want to break that to go to another conference, well, then it's like Greg, if you work for a company and you sign a contract, yeah, you can leave, but then it's like the buyouts that the coaches have, right?
Yeah.
There's ways to get out of a contract, but it's stipulated in the contract, and I don't understand. I mean, I think this is where. I mean, I know you voiced frustration with the TD and Sankey. I think that's where that's where your focus should be. Like, guys, why don't you be a leader and show us that this is the way to govern all this chaos? Like, why aren't you stepping up to make this happen? And Greg, I can't answer that. To me, it would seem to be in the SEC and the Big Ten's best interest to provide that governance and put that structure in place. But for some reason, they're not doing it. Maybe they don't think they can win in court. I don't know.
I don't know.
But that's the Supreme Court said that was their best path forward, and they've ignored that guidance. And it's like, that's why, Greg, every single one of these house settlement deals, all these things, I keep harping. I call in periodically when there's like, well, this news of the settlement. And I'm like, that's going to be struck down by the Supreme Court because it violates the very principles they talked about multiple years ago. Why aren't you putting something within the guidance that they talk about, where the true governance structure is with the conference?
Yeah.
Not the NCAA.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. Maybe the directive should come straight from the conferences. And of course, if they all agreed with the same rules, then the lawyers would come after them with collusion or something like that.
Correct.
Yes.
But Greg, you and I both know that the SEC is not going to have the same rules as the AAC.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of the internal NCAA fights that they have. Like, wait a minute, the rules you guys want to enact don't work for us.
Yeah.
And the whole house settlement doesn't work for most of the G6 programs and SCF level programs. So that's what I don't understand, why they keep going to an NCAA level of governance unless I've missed it, Greg. Every time there's an NCAA level of governance, it's been slapped down by some level of court for the last 5 years.
Yeah. All right, what do you think about the championship game here? Buckeyes, Notre Dame?
I think it's going to be Ohio State in a blowout.
Okay.
And, I just hope it's close, but I don't suspect it's going to be. I think, what's fact. The story of Ohio State is probably the best advertisement for the 12-team playoff, or the 14 or 16-team playoff that we have. Greg, we've talked about, like, what does Cinderella look like? Well, no one would call Ohio State a Cinderella, but Ohio State within the previous structures would never have been in the playoff, right? So, and now they're the odds-on favorite to win it. So in a way, they are Cinderella, except they're Ohio State, so they don't look like one.
Yeah, no, very good point. Great point.
Because I've told you, I think Cinderella comes from like the middle of the
you did
the third or fourth or fifth place team in the Power 2 conferences.
You did, yeah.
And that's what Ohio State is.
Yeah,
the third place team in the Big Ten.
Exactly.
Who probably was the best team in the country all year. They just lost to Oregon in a nail biter in Oregon, and then they lost for some ungodly reason to their rival.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, Larry the Jam, none of this matters because there are no rules. The fat guy from Minnesota, I've already declared the Minnesota Golden Gophers the 2024-2025 national champions. So,
well,
there
Greg,
it is.
Texas fans are claiming that we are the NIL portal champions because we didn't lose anything that really, really, really hurt us too bad.
That's fine. That's fine. Look,
and we're also the coaching carousel champions.
There you go. All right.
So,
Beautiful. And Nebraska
we're
Cornhuskers are the off-season champions for the 8th year in a row. Yep.
we just keep winning championships here at UT. You know.
Yeah.
So, well, Greg, number one, let me end with Greg. I thank you for your show, your forum, your opportunity for fans like me to call in. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, and really the service you provide super fans like all of us.
Appreciate it.
So thank you.
Your tune is going to change with me once I release the first way too early top 25. When you see the Longhorns at number 1, your tune is going to change quite severely. So I'm ready for the blowback.
I'm just gonna bank on what you've been saying. You're gonna get hot next year.
Yeah,
and you're gonna be right.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think Texas is losing a lot. They're losing a lot in their offensive line. They're losing a lot of their defense is gonna be great, but the offense. I mean, everybody just assumes Arch Manning's gonna be great, and I think he's gonna be very, very good, but he's gonna be running around like a maniac sometimes just to escape the rush because the Great Wall of China he had in front of him or Quinn Ewers had in front of him for most of his time. No, they broke down against really good teams like Georgia and Ohio State, but Arch Manning doesn't have that next year. So, all right, Greg.
All right, sir. Appreciate it, my man.
Have a great day.
Great call. Larry the GM. Look, I get it. B. Bean does not agree. Connecticut fan does not agree. But let me know who do you think should be number 1 then. If not Texas, who? If not Texas, who? I'm going to tell you right now, if it's not Texas, then it should be Clemson or Penn State. I can't go with the Buckeyes. I cannot go with the Buckeyes. They're going to lose way too much. Julian's saying it's going to be the QB1. Look, he might be even better than Arch Manning next year. He might be. A lot of promise, a lot of good buzz coming out of Columbus. But I cannot put the Buckeyes number 1. Penn State, they got Drew Aller. They got Singleton coming back. They got Crayton Allen. They got the great safety coming back. They got Dennis Sutton coming back. I can make a huge argument for Penn State being number 1 in the way too early top 25. I can make a Clemson argument. They got their really good, now going to be sophomore wide receivers coming back. They got the running back. Phil Moff is going out, but they got some juice in the backfield. You got Klubnik, who the light bulb is finally turned on. He's coming back. They got a new defensive coordinator who I've got a lot of respect for. I can make a big argument that Clemson should be number 1. And Miami, look, you've got Carson Beck. They've made a big change at defensive coordinator. Of course, I want to see a little bit more what Miami is getting out of the portal. We'll evaluate everybody. I get it. The Buckeyes will reload, but I cannot put a team as number 1 in which I haven't seen the quarterback. The little bit I've seen of Arch Manning, I think he's the real deal. I think he's absolutely the real deal, Holyfield. Troy V says Purdue. Why not? We are in this world of no rules. No rules, baby. No rules. So I might as well have the Gophers as number 1 with a quarterback none of you have seen. Okay, I'm done barking for the day. We've been on the air for almost 2 hours. I want to thank Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger, Helmer Hennison for your donations. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the wonderful phone calls. Again, the PATC geniuses have picked the Buckeyes -8.5. The PATC family has picked the Buckeyes -8.5. And Greg the Gold, I have picked the Buckeyes as well. It's 9.5. Remember, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time on News Nation. On News Nation, there is going to be this man, Jake Barber. 1 hour of talking about Jake Barber, the helicopter pilot, the tip of the spear, Delta Forces. 1 hour special on Jake Barber and 3 other of his crewmen talking about crash retrievals. So I might come on live right after that live show, News Nation. If there is something there, if it's intriguing enough, if it all goes pear-shaped, if I can't see anything in the video that they're going to show, I'm not going to come on live. But if there's enough there for me, excuse me, if there's enough there for me to say, wow, look at that, this is new, the data that they're going to present, the still images that they're going to present of the large white egg object, if there's enough there, I'm going to come on live. I'm not going to be able to show it's copyrighted, right? But hopefully on X will be filled with images of the large white egg, and I'll be able to use X to show possibly a little bit of the video and the pictures. If there's enough there on that live show tonight, starting in 2 hours from now, I'm going to come on live. So keep your head on a swivel. Please subscribe. Open up those notifications. And before you leave, please smash the like button. And I might be coming on live 3 hours from now. Peek around the country, not peek around the corner. Peek around the country, live show tonight. If I see enough that it intrigues my curiosity. So, keep your head on a swivel. I hope to see you later tonight, unless that whole thing goes pear-shaped and I say, nah, this ain't what they told us. This isn't what they told us it was going to be. But if it is, this could be the biggest news story, well, of every one of your lifetimes. If this is what could be non-human intelligence, large white-looking egg crash retrieval, I might see you guys 3 hours from now. Until next time. Possibly 3 hours from now. Most definitely tomorrow. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.